And welcome back to Public Affairs on Peach. Concussion management plays a role in the NCAA. The University of Georgia leads the way in the league when it comes to taking care of the health and well-being of their players. The staff surrounding the Bulldogs watches for the hits and tackles on the field that may sideline a player. The football team uses recognized tests to see if a player is ready to return to play after a hit to the head. A computer program called Impact tests memory, and another machine measures balance.
We've been doing concussion testing in Georgia since 1997. The biggest thing we changed is we developed a written policy. That was one of the things the NCAA recommended, and actually our policy is the model for the NCAA.
Under UGA's policy, athletes must be informed about symptoms and sign a statement agreeing to report them. A player who has a concussion can't play for at least a day and can't return to play until a team doctor clears them. And so much focus is placed on concussions in football, but last year at UGA, there were more concussions per cheerleader than there were per football player. We take a look at the risks these young women face.
Stick and stand.
The University of Georgia considers cheerleaders athletes, even though the NCAA doesn't recognize cheer as a college sport.
I wouldn't want to cheer anywhere else. I mean, this is the greatest school ever.
1, 2, 3, 4.
We give them all we got.
1, 2.
It's our second priority to school.
Perfect.
Cheerleader Hannah Leach of Alpharetta grew up doing gymnastics and later turned to cheer.
And I've found that the dedication and commitment kind of makes me more successful.
Round off back handspring fulls come naturally to Hannah. UGA raised the bar.
The stunts are more than I ever imagined myself doing when I was in high school.
1, 2.
A lot higher standards.
So we will do standing today.
Head UGA cheer coach Ben O'Brien admits the skill level required becomes more advanced each year, and even more so by the time cheerleaders get to college.
Because it's very demanding. When you're in college, you can flip in the air and you can twist and pyramids. You're 2.5 people high.
The stunts are complicated.
1, 2.
Even so, a concussion never crossed Hannah's mind.
Honestly, whenever I heard about cheerleaders getting concussions, I was just like, oh, it's just, they're being too cautious.
Last year, her view changed.
Threw up a girl, she did 1 flip, 2 twists. It was actually one of her first tries, so she was a little nervous. And I think she just kind of did something weird and came down a little bit crooked. So I was supposed to catch her sideways, but her feet actually came this way and kind of hit me in the face.
Hannah was knocked down and dizzy, but continued to practice. It wasn't until the next day she realized something was wrong.
That morning I started slurring my words a little bit. I started getting heat flashes. I was a little nauseous.
Hannah was one of 8 cheerleaders at UGA who suffered a concussion last year.
Last year we had a pretty big learning curve in terms of we had a lot of new kids come in last year. It's an elbow to the head, or if you're catching somebody and your head's butting.
Dr. Ken Mountainer with Emory Sports Medicine Center says girls are more prone to concussion than boys. Couple that with the need to constantly try new stunts, and the risk for concussion increases.
Any sport where you are twirling your body rapidly is a potential for brain injury. If the spotting's not done correctly, or if they land awkwardly, just with a high velocity of impact with no protection on the brain at all, no helmet or anything like that, it lends itself to having concussions.
O'Brien feels UGA takes the proper precautions and takes concussion education and treatment seriously.
We know when they've had enough in terms of pushing them and kind of stepping back and saying, okay, let's take a deep breath here, and because we don't want to push them too much to where obviously they could injure themselves.
Hannah was required to fill out a symptoms sheet daily and couldn't return to cheer until her symptom list was at 0.
I mean, I know what I signed up for. I know it's a risk, and if I get one, then it's all part of it. I'm healed from it, and I just got to make sure I'm careful.
Mountainer says the blows in cheerleading sometimes aren't as obvious as the hits in football. That's why it's important for cheerleaders to report when they feel out of sorts. And in youth sports, the state of Georgia caught up with the rest of the country this year when Governor Nathan Deal signed the Return to Play Act into law. It's aimed at making sports safer for all young athletes. It educates coaches, players, and parents about the dangers of concussions and gives guidance on when to put young athletes back in the game after suffering a concussion.
I think this sends a great message. The legislation is designed to protect our children and keep them healthy.
Under the law, any young athlete in any sport suspected of having a concussion must be taken out of the game and cannot return to play until they are cleared by a healthcare provider. The Return to Play Act takes effect January 1st, 2014. And athletes in nearly all sports are at risk of concussion, and that includes girls soccer. A study suggests girls are 64% more likely to suffer concussions than boys in high school soccer. Experts believe it's because girls have weaker necks and don't absorb shock as easily. Girls can also take longer to recover from head injuries. And a mother that knows all too well is Paige Havens. And Paige, your daughter Rachel loved playing soccer, but then she suffered a concussion. What happened?
Jennifer, she did. It was a beautiful fall day in 2011. It was a game like any other. She took a hit. She and a player collided, and she went down. We didn't think it was anything special. She got up. She played another 25 minutes. What we didn't know is her body had gone into shock. And when she went to the sidelines at halftime to get that water bottle, it all hit. And when I went to check on her when she didn't go back in the second half, she did not even know who I was. All she could say was, "Help me, my head. I need help." And we knew something was really wrong.
That must have been terrifying as a mother.
It really was. And it is something that you don't know what you don't know, and we had no idea at that moment exactly what we were dealing with.
How did the concussion affect Rachel, and what changes did you see in her after it?
Rachel went from being a dynamic soccer player and scholar athlete to struggling to be able to have a one-on-one conversation with you, not even knowing who you were or who we were as her family, not being able to hold a conversation. She could not bear the light of day. The light sensitivity was very bad. Going to school, conversing with people was just impossible.
And how is she doing today?
She's doing very well. We are almost 2 years down the road on this, but what we have learned is that Rachel sustained permanent brain damage and that she now has a seizure disorder that she will work with and have to manage for the rest of her life. So this was life-changing for our family. That one hit to her head really changed her forever.
What advice would you give to parents, and why do you think the Return to Play Act is so important and so vital in this state?
Honestly, the Return to Play Act was something we were big advocates for because it creates a minimum level of expectation from all people involved in youth sports to be able to educate and to create a knowledge not only with the coaches but with the athletes, with the parents, and making sure that everybody involved on that continuum is fully educated about the signs and symptoms and what needs to be done before it's safe to put that athlete back on the field.
Why do you think it's so important to get that message out there for other families that may be looking at a concussion on the field somewhere?
Because there is a lot of misconception about concussions. People believe you throw them back in there. They don't understand that if you haven't passed out and you didn't throw up, then it's not a concussion. You just got a bump on the head. It's just a headache. I'm telling you, it can sneak up on you faster than anything, and you need to be aware. Parents need to be aware.
First-hand experience. Thank you so much for being with us, Paige.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And the NFL is working to make playing football safer for young athletes. Hear from a former Falcon who's teaching them to keep their heads up.